I was clearing the dinner dishes when I heard the phone buzz on my coffee table. Amanda had left it there when she and Daniel rushed out to get their daughter from soccer practice. I glanced over, planning to ignore it. But then I saw the screen light up with a photo I recognized instantly. My husband Richard, smiling at the camera. The caller ID said Rick with a heart emoji. My breath caught. Rick died 5 years ago. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. A text message appeared. I opened it. "Missing you today, baby. Still can't believe you're gone. Our secret stays with me forever." My heart almost stopped. I stood there frozen, staring at those words on the screen. My mind couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. How could Amanda have Rick's photo saved in her phone like that? With a heart emoji? And this message, talking about a secret, calling him baby. My stomach twisted into knots. I should have put the phone down right then, should have respected her privacy. But something inside me, some instinct I didn't even know I had, made my thumb scroll upward through the message thread. And what I found made the room start spinning around me. Hundreds of messages, maybe thousands, between Amanda and my husband, my Rick. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone twice. The messages went back 7 years. 7 years. That was 2 full years before Rick died in that car accident on Route 42. I did the math in my head, even though my brain felt like it was moving through thick mud. Amanda married my son Daniel 6 years ago, which meant she was texting my husband, my Rick, while she was dating Daniel, while she was planning a wedding to my son. The messages were intimate, romantic. Some of them were explicit enough that I had to look away for a second, my face burning with shame and anger. References to their time together. Plans to meet up. Photos exchanged between them that I couldn't bear to look at closely. My vision blurred with tears, but I kept reading, like I was watching a car crash in slow motion, and couldn't look away. There were messages about meeting at hotels, about stolen afternoons, about how much they missed each other. Amanda writing things like, "I can't wait to feel your arms around me again." Rick responding, "You make me feel alive in ways I forgot were possible." I sank down onto the couch, my knees giving out. My chest felt tight, like someone was sitting on it. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of nightmare. But the phone was solid and real in my hands, and the messages kept going on and on as I scrolled. I remembered the office Christmas party 7 years ago. Daniel had just started working at the engineering firm downtown, so proud of his new job. He brought us along to meet his colleagues. That's where we met Amanda. She was working in the marketing department, young and bright and friendly. She paid attention to Daniel that night, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm when they talked. But now, seeing these messages, I realized something else. Rick had been at that party too. He'd insisted on coming, even though he usually hated those kinds of things. He'd said he wanted to see Daniel's new workplace, wanted to be supportive. I remembered him talking to Amanda that night. Remembered thinking it was sweet how welcoming everyone was being to our son. Oh God, they met each other first. Amanda met Rick first, and then she started pursuing Daniel. Why? Why would she do that? I kept scrolling, desperate for answers, and found messages that made everything even worse. Amanda writing to Rick, "Your son is sweet. This could work out perfectly for us." Rick responding, "I don't know if I can do this. It feels wrong." Amanda, "You said you wanted us to be together. This way we can be close. We can see each other all the time. No one will suspect." My stomach lurched. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, my whole body shaking. When I came back, I made myself keep reading, even though every word felt like a knife cutting into me. The affair continued even after Amanda married Daniel. The messages showed they were still meeting, still texting, still carrying on like nothing had changed. Like Amanda hadn't stood in a church and promised to love and honor my son. Like Rick hadn't stood there as the father of the groom, knowing what he was doing behind everyone's backs. I thought about all those nights Rick came home late from work. All those business trips. All those golf weekends with his buddies. How many of those were lies? How many times had he been with her instead? With my son's wife? My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone, but I kept scrolling back through time. And then I found something that changed everything again. A message from 3 weeks before Rick died. I recognized the date because it was etched in my memory. 3 weeks before that awful night when the police came to my door, Rick had written, "Amanda, this has to stop. I can't do this anymore. I'm telling Daniel everything. I'm going to tell Nellie too. We both need to come clean. This guilt is eating me alive. It's destroying me. We have to end this the right way." Amanda's response came an hour later. "If you tell anyone, you'll destroy everything. Your marriage, your relationship with your son, your reputation. Everyone will know what kind of man you really are. I'll make sure you regret it. Think about what you have to lose, Rick. Think carefully." Rick wrote back, "I've thought about nothing else for months. I can't live like this anymore. I'd rather lose everything than keep living this lie. I'm telling them next week." 3 weeks later, Rick was dead. I sat there on my couch, staring at those messages, and felt something cold wash over me. Rick died in a single car accident. His car went off the road on a stretch of highway he drove every single day. The police said he must have fallen asleep at the wheel, but Rick never fell asleep driving. Never. He was always so careful about that, especially after his friend died in a drowsy driving accident back in the 90s. And Amanda was the one who called me that night. She'd been driving behind him, she said. She saw it happen. She was the one who called 911. She was devastated at the funeral, crying so hard that Daniel had to hold her up. I remembered hugging her, trying to comfort her, telling her it wasn't her fault, that there was nothing she could have done. Now, all of it seemed like a performance. A sick, twisted performance. I heard a car door slam outside. My heart jumped into my throat. I looked at the time on Amanda's phone. They were coming back. I had maybe 30 seconds before they walked through that door. My own phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out with trembling fingers and started taking photos of the messages. The screen, the thread, the message about Rick wanting to tell, Amanda's threat. I took picture after picture, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I heard footsteps on the porch. Quickly, I closed the messages and put Amanda's phone back exactly where it had been on the coffee table. I stood up, trying to look casual, but my legs felt weak and my face must have been white as paper. The door opened. Daniel came in first, carrying his daughter's soccer bag. Then Amanda, holding her son's hand. She was smiling, talking about stopping for ice cream on the way home. Then she saw me, saw my face. Her smile faltered. Her eyes went to her phone on the table, then back to me. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Daniel was still talking about soccer scores, oblivious. But Amanda knew. I could see it in her eyes. She knew I'd seen something. Her son tugged on her hand, asking about the ice cream. She didn't respond. She just kept looking at me. Finally, she asked, her voice careful and measured. "Nellie, did you need something? You look upset." I couldn't speak. My throat felt closed up tight. She walked slowly toward the coffee table and picked up her phone. Looked at the screen, looked back at me. Her face had gone very still. "Did you look at my phone?" she asked quietly. Daniel finally noticed something was wrong. He stopped mid-sentence about the game and looked between us. "Mom? What's going on?" I found my voice, though it came out hoarse and broken. "How long were you sleeping with my husband?" The room went absolutely silent. Even the kids stopped moving. Daniel's face drained of all color. He stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Amanda's expression shifted through several emotions in the space of a heartbeat. Shock, then calculation, then something that looked almost like relief. Then her eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, honey, can you take the kids upstairs?" she said softly, her voice already breaking with emotion. Please. Just for a few minutes. Daniel stood there, frozen, looking between us. What is she talking about? Please, Amanda repeated, tears starting to roll down her cheeks. Just give us a minute. Please. Daniel herded the confused children upstairs, though he kept looking back at us. The moment I heard their bedroom door close, I turned on Amanda. Don't you dare cry. Don't you dare act like the victim here. But Amanda was already sitting down, covering her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I was going to tell you, she sobbed. I've wanted to tell you for so long. You don't know how much guilt I've been carrying. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Guilt? You're talking about guilt? She looked up at me, and I had to admit she looked genuinely tormented. Tears streamed down her face. Her hands were shaking. It was wrong. I know it was wrong. But Nellie, you have to understand. I was so young. I was only 23 when I met Rick. He was older, powerful, successful. He pursued me relentlessly. That's a lie, I said. I saw the messages. You pursued Daniel while you were already involved with Rick. Amanda wiped her eyes, her breath hitching. Because I was trying to get away from him. Don't you see? I fell for Daniel because I wanted to escape what Rick and I had. I thought if I was with someone else, if I built a real relationship, Rick would leave me alone, but he wouldn't. He threatened me. Threatened you? He said if I didn't keep seeing him, he'd ruin my relationship with Daniel. He'd tell Daniel lies about me. He'd make sure Daniel never spoke to me again. Her voice rose, becoming more desperate. I was trapped, Nellie. I was trapped between the man I loved and the man who wouldn't let me go. I shook my head, backing away from her. That's not true. The messages don't say that. Because he deleted the threatening ones. He was careful about what he put in writing. She stood up, reaching toward me. Nellie, please. I know this is horrible to hear. I know it destroys your image of Rick. But he wasn't the man you thought he was. He was manipulative, controlling. He made my life hell for years. Then why did you stay married to Daniel? Why didn't you leave? Because I love Daniel. I do love Daniel. And when Rick died, I thought I was finally free. She grabbed a tissue from the box on the side table, dabbing at her eyes. His death was the first day I could breathe in years. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. And I've been trying to be the best wife to Daniel I can be, trying to make up for the past. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone. I saw the message about Rick wanting to end it. About him wanting to tell everyone the truth. Amanda's tears stopped for just a split second. Just a flicker of something else in her eyes before the grief returned. That's what I mean. He was manipulating me even then. He was threatening to tell everyone a twisted version of our story, where I was the seductress and he was the victim. He was going to destroy my marriage to save his own conscience. That's not what the message said. You're reading what you want to read because you can't accept the truth about your husband. Her voice was getting sharper now, defensive. Rick wasn't a saint, Nellie. He was a cheater. He was a liar. And yes, it hurts to hear that, I'm sure. But taking it out on me, the person he victimized, isn't fair. I stood there, trying to process her words, trying to match them against what I'd read. Something didn't fit. The messages didn't read like what she was describing. But she was so convincing, so tearful, so seemingly genuine. I want to see the phone, I said. I want Daniel to see those messages. Why? Amanda's voice turned cold. So you can destroy my marriage? So you can hurt your son? Daniel loves me, Nellie. We have 2 children together. Are you really going to tear our family apart over something that happened years ago, with a man who's dead? He has a right to know. He has a right to peace. He has a right to raise his children in a stable home. This won't change anything. Rick is gone. Dragging this out into the open will only cause pain. She stepped closer to me, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. Think about your grandchildren. Think about what this will do to them. Is that really what you want? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Daniel appeared, his face tight with worry and confusion. Someone needs to tell me what's going on right now. Amanda immediately ran to him, burying her face in his chest. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry you have to hear this. Daniel looked at me over her head. Mum? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken of the messages. Look at these. Your father and Amanda were having an affair. For years. Even after you got married. Daniel took my phone, his hands unsteady. He scrolled through the photos, his face growing paler with each image. Amanda kept her face pressed against his chest, her shoulders shaking. When he finished, he just stood there, staring at nothing. The silence stretched out forever. Finally, Amanda pulled back, looking up at him with red, swollen eyes. Baby, those messages are old. From before we got married. Your father had a crush on me. I didn't know how to handle it. I should have told you, but I was scared. I was young and stupid and scared. These are dated after your wedding, Daniel said quietly, his voice hollow. The dates must be wrong. Or maybe he had old messages he kept sending, I don't know. But nothing physical happened after we got married. I swear to you, I was faithful to you. Daniel looked at me. Mom, how did you get these? I saw her phone ringing. I saw Dad's photo. I opened the messages. You went through my phone without permission, Amanda said, and suddenly there was anger in her voice. You invaded my privacy. Because your phone showed my dead husband's picture. Amanda turned to Daniel. She's been acting strange lately, hasn't she? You mentioned she seemed confused last week when we had dinner, that she forgot what day it was. I felt a chill run through me. What are you doing? I'm worried about you, Nellie. This kind of paranoia, these conspiracy theories about Rick going through people's phones. These are signs of something. She looked at Daniel meaningfully. Your father has been gone for 5 years. Sometimes grief affects people's minds years later. Don't you dare, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Don't you dare suggest I'm losing my mind. Daniel held up his hand. Everyone just stop. I need to think. I need time to process this. He looked at me, and I saw confusion and pain in his eyes. Mom, I'm going to take this phone evidence with me. I need to look through everything carefully. No, I said, clutching my phone. I'm keeping this. Mom, please. If what you're saying is true, I need to see it. I need to understand it. But I can't do that in the middle of a screaming match. I looked at my son, at the pain in his face, and felt my heart break. Daniel, I'm telling you the truth. Then you won't mind me taking time to verify it. He held out his hand. Against every instinct, I gave him my phone. He pocketed it and turned to Amanda. We're going home. We'll talk about this later. Amanda nodded, still crying. I love you. Whatever you believe, please know that I love you and the kids more than anything. They gathered up the children, who were confused and scared by the tension they could feel, even if they didn't understand it. Daniel avoided my eyes as they left. Amanda paused at the door, looking back at me. For just a second, her mask slipped. Her eyes were cold, calculating, and completely dry. Then she turned away and was gone. I stood alone in my living room, the silence pressing down on me. I'd exposed the truth, but somehow I'd made everything worse. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the confrontation over and over in my mind, wondering what I could have done differently. Should I have waited? Should I have gathered more evidence first? But how could I have waited after seeing those messages? When morning finally came, I felt hollowed out and exhausted. I tried calling Daniel 3 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. I sent text messages. No response. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed more proof. Something concrete that Amanda couldn't twist or explain away. I went to my home office, the small room at the back of the house that had been Rick's space. After he died, I'd boxed up most of his things, but I'd kept his filing cabinet, kept his old laptop, kept the papers I'd thought might be important someday. Now I pulled everything out, spreading it across the floor. Bank statements, credit card bills, tax returns. I went through years of financial records, looking for anything unusual, and I found it. Charges at hotels during business trips. Restaurants I'd never been to on dates marked as anniversaries or birthdays. Jewelry purchases where I'd never received any jewelry. Everything was there, hidden in plain sight among thousands of legitimate expenses. Then I found something else. A charge for a storage unit rental. Monthly payments of $75 to secure space storage on Maple Avenue. The charges started 7 years ago, and they were still going. Still being automatically withdrawn from our joint checking account every month. How had I never noticed? $75 among all our other expenses. It had just disappeared into the background noise. I grabbed Rick's old keyring from the desk drawer. I'd kept it, unable to throw away something he'd touched every day. There were keys I recognized. House keys, car keys. But there were 2 keys I'd never identified. Small, brass, with numbers stamped on them, my heart pounding. I drove across town to the storage facility. It was a sprawling complex of orange and white units, row after row of locked doors. I found the office and gave them the account number from the bank statement. The woman at the desk looked it up. Unit 214. You need to settle the back balance before you can access it. Back balance? Payment got declined last month. Something about the account being closed. There's a $75 balance due. I paid it with my credit card, my hands shaking. She gave me a receipt and directions to the unit. It was in the back corner of the facility, away from the main entrance. The small key fit perfectly into the padlock. The door rolled up with a metallic screech. Inside was like stepping into a secret life. Furniture that didn't match anything in our house. A small love seat, a coffee table, lamps, boxes stacked against the walls. I opened the first box. Photos, dozens of them. Rick and Amanda together, at restaurants, at the beach, in hotel rooms. Amanda laughing, Amanda in Rick's arms, Amanda looking at the camera with an expression that made me want to be sick. The next box held gifts, jewelry, designer handbags, expensive perfume, things Rick had bought for her with our money. In a third box, I found a cell phone, the burner phone he'd used to text her. It was dead, but I took it. Maybe it could be charged. Maybe there was more evidence on it. And then, in a file folder at the bottom of that box, I found bank statements. An account at First National Bank that I'd never known existed. The statements went back 6 years. Regular deposits. Rick had been funneling money from our accounts into this secret one. Small amounts at first, then larger and larger sums. The most recent statement was from 1 month before Rick died. The account had $217,000 in it. There was a note in Rick's handwriting paperclipped to the statement. For A, in case anything happens. He'd been planning to leave that money to Amanda. Over $200,000 of our marital assets. Money we'd saved together. Money that should have been mine after he died. I pulled out my phone to photograph everything, then remembered Daniel had it. Cursing, I loaded the most important items into my car. The photos, the bank statements, the burner phone. I needed to talk to the bank. I needed to find out what happened to that account. Back home, I called First National Bank. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got someone who could help. I'm trying to get information about an account that belonged to my late husband, I said, giving them the account number. There was typing, a long pause. That account was closed 5 years ago. All funds were withdrawn. Who withdrew them? I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't give you that information without proper legal documentation. I was his wife. This was marital property. I understand, but the account was a single holder account in his name only. Without a death certificate and legal proof that you're the executor of his estate, I can't share details. I wanted to scream, but I knew in my bones who had taken that money. Amanda had known about the account. She'd had access somehow. And 1 week after Rick's death, when I was drowning in grief, she'd cleaned it out. That money was mine. Rick had stolen from our marriage to give to his mistress, and she'd taken every penny. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot, my head spinning. Then I made a decision. I was going to confront Daniel with this evidence. I was going to make him see the truth. I drove to his house. It was 3 in the afternoon. He should be home from work by now. I pulled into the driveway behind his truck. Daniel opened the door before I could knock. He looked terrible, eyes red and swollen, face haggard. He'd been crying. "Mom, this isn't a good time. I have more evidence. Please, Daniel, let me show you." He hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked into the living room. Amanda was sitting on the couch, and when she saw me, her expression was cold and prepared. No more tears. No more victim act. "I told you not to come here," Amanda said. "I found Dad's storage unit." I pulled out the file folder with the bank statements. He had a secret account, over $200,000. Money he stole from our marriage. And someone took it all 1 week after he died. I laid the statements on the coffee table, laid out the photos of Amanda and Rick together. The credit card statements with all the charges. Everything. Daniel looked at it all, his face crumbling. "This is real. This is all real." Amanda stood up slowly. She looked at the evidence, at Daniel, at me. And then something changed in her face. The mask dropped completely. "You're right," she said flatly. "All of it. Rick and I were together for years. And I'm not sorry." Daniel's head snapped up. "What?" "I'm not sorry. Rick loved me, not her." Amanda pointed at me. "He was going to leave you. He told me that. He was going to divorce you and marry me." "That's not true," I whispered. But my voice had no strength. "It is true. That money? He gave it to me because he wanted me taken care of. He knew he was going to blow up his life to be with me, and he wanted to make sure I'd be okay." Amanda's voice was hard, confident. "The only reason we weren't together is because he died before he could leave you." Daniel stood up, his whole body shaking. "You used me. You married me to stay close to him. At first, yes. Rick and I couldn't be together openly, so I married you. It kept us close. It gave us cover." She shrugged, as if this was all perfectly reasonable. "But after Rick died, I stayed because the life was comfortable. You're a good father. You make decent money. The kids are healthy. Why would I leave?" I watched my son's face break apart. "You never loved me? I've grown fond of you. Isn't that enough?" Amanda picked up her phone from the table. "Look, this is all in the past. Rick is dead. What does any of it matter now?" "It matters because you lied to me for 6 years," Daniel said, his voice rising. "Because I have children with you. Because my father betrayed me and you helped him do it." "Your father loved me. That's not a crime. Neither is moving on after someone dies." Amanda's eyes were hard as stone. "And think about this carefully, Daniel. We have 2 children together. Do you really want to blow up their lives over something that happened years ago? Do you want to be a single father? Do you want to put the kids through a divorce? You're threatening me with my own children? I'm reminding you what's at stake. Your mother here wants to destroy our family because she can't accept that her husband didn't love her anymore. Are you going to let her do that?" Daniel looked at me, and I saw something terrible in his eyes. Anger, not at Amanda, but at me. "You brought this here," he said quietly. "You couldn't just leave it alone. Dad is gone. Finding out about this doesn't change anything, except to make everything worse. Daniel, she's manipulating you. You forced this out into the open. You went through her phone. You dragged all this up. And now, my kids might hear their mother and grandfather were having an affair. Now I have to live with knowing my wife never loved me." His voice broke. "I needed you to just let the past stay buried." "I couldn't," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I couldn't live with the lies." "Well, congratulations. Now none of us can." He turned away from me. "I need you to leave. I need time to think. I need to figure out what to do about my marriage, my kids. And I can't do that with you here. Daniel, please. Get out, Mom. Just get out." Amanda stood there, watching me with cold satisfaction barely hidden behind a mask of concern. Maybe you should go, Nellie. Daniel needs space to process this. We all do. I looked at my son, at the stranger he'd become in the space of 24 hours. Then I looked at Amanda, at the woman who'd destroyed 2 generations of my family, and I realized that even though I'd exposed the truth, she'd won. She'd used my son's children as shields. She'd twisted everything so that I was the villain. I walked out of that house feeling like I'd lost everything that mattered. The days that followed were the darkest of my life. Darker even than the days after Rick died, because at least then I'd had Daniel. At least then I'd had my grandchildren. Now I had no one. I called Daniel every day for a week. He never answered. I sent text messages. Nothing. I drove by their house twice and saw cars in the driveway, saw lights on, saw life continuing without me. But no one answered when I knocked. I'd been cut off completely. Friends called, wondering why I wasn't at the usual book club meeting, the usual Tuesday morning coffee. I couldn't explain. How do you tell people that your dead husband was having an affair with your daughter-in-law? That your son won't speak to you because you exposed the truth? I stopped answering my phone, stopped going out. I moved through my house like a ghost, haunting rooms filled with memories that all felt like lies now. Had Rick really loved me? Had any of our marriage been real? Or had I been a placeholder, someone to keep the house, while he lived his real life somewhere else? Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe I should have kept quiet. Maybe ignorance really was bliss. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 8 days after the confrontation, when my phone rang with Daniel's number. I grabbed it so fast I almost dropped it. But it wasn't Daniel's voice. It was Amanda. "We need to talk, Nellie. In person." I wanted to hang up. Wanted to tell her I never wanted to see her again. But I heard myself say, "When?" "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on 5th Street, 2 o'clock. Why? Because there are things we need to settle. And because I think you want to see your grandchildren again." She hung up before I could respond. I barely slept that night. What did Amanda want? What new game was she playing? But she was right about one thing. I desperately wanted to see my grandchildren. Wanted to hold them, make sure they were okay. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early. Ordered a coffee I didn't drink. Sat at a table by the window, my hands clasped together to stop them from shaking. Amanda arrived exactly at 2. She looked polished, composed, ordered a latte, and sat down across from me like we were old friends meeting for a chat. "Thank you for coming," she said pleasantly. "What do you want?" "I want to apologize for how harsh I was the other day." She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "You're right. I owed you the truth. Rick and I did have an affair. It was wrong. I should have been honest from the beginning." I stared at her, trying to figure out what she was doing. This couldn't be real. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Amanda continued. "About what I owe you, about what's fair. And I think you deserve compensation for what Rick did. For what I did." "Compensation?" "The money Rick set aside. The $200,000. I did take it after he died. I felt entitled to it at the time. But you're right. It was marital property. Half of it should have been yours." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're offering to pay me back?" "Yes. It's the right thing to do. That money belonged to both of you. I'll pay you back. $100,000. It'll take time, but I'll do it." "Why?" I couldn't keep the suspicion out of my voice. "Why now?" "Because I want to make this right. Because you're Daniel's mother and my children's grandmother. Because we're family, whether either of us likes it or not." She took a sip of her coffee. "But I have one condition." There it was. What condition? "Don't tell anyone else about the affair. Not friends, not extended family, not anyone. What happened between Rick and me, that's between us. Let Daniel and me work through this privately. Don't spread it around." "Why would I agree to that?" "Because of your grandchildren. You want to see them again, don't you?" She leaned forward slightly. "Daniel is coming around. He's hurt and angry, but he's thinking about the kids. About keeping the family together. But if this story gets out, if people start gossiping, if it becomes public, it'll be so much harder. The kids might hear things at school. Daniel will feel humiliated. It'll make everything worse. So you want to buy my silence. I want us to find a way forward that doesn't destroy everyone involved. Is that so wrong? She reached across the table like she was going to touch my hand, then thought better of it. Think about it, Nellie. You get the money you're owed. You get to see your grandchildren again. Daniel gets time to heal. The kids stay protected. Everyone wins. I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell her I'd never agree to keep quiet about what she'd done. But the thought of seeing my grandchildren again, of having Daniel back in my life, was overwhelming. I need time to think about it, I said. Of course. Take a few days. But Nellie, please consider it, for everyone's sake. We finished our coffee making awkward small talk about nothing. Amanda paid the bill, which felt like some kind of power play. As we were leaving, her phone rang. She answered it, turning slightly away. I could hear pieces of the conversation. Yes, it's handled, she agreed. No, she won't be a problem. My blood ran cold. I'd been set up. Again. What was that? I demanded when she hung up. Amanda smiled, and it wasn't friendly anymore. Insurance, Nellie. This whole conversation was recorded. You just agreed to stop harassing me in exchange for money. That's not what happened. Isn't it? I recorded the whole thing. You demanding compensation. Me offering to pay you to stop spreading lies about a fake affair. That's extortion, technically. Or it could be made to look that way. I felt dizzy. You're twisting everything. I'm protecting myself. You've been coming after me for weeks now, making wild accusations, going through my private property, showing up at my house uninvited. I needed to make sure you'd stop. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. I have you on tape now. If you keep bothering us, I'll use it. I'll tell everyone you tried to blackmail me. Who do you think people will believe? The grieving widow, who's been acting unstable, or the daughter-in-law who tried to help? Daniel will know the truth. Daniel already thinks you're losing it. This will just confirm it. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder. You're alone, Nellie. You have no leverage, no power. Rick chose me over you. Now Daniel has too. The life you thought you'd have with them? It's mine now. The grandchildren you thought you'd help raise? Mine. Everything you wanted? I have it. She walked away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk. When I got home, there was an email waiting from an attorney named Marcus Welsh. On behalf of Daniel Peterson, it said, I am writing to inform you that my client has filed for a protective order. The email detailed a hearing scheduled for the following week. Daniel was claiming I'd been harassing his family, making false accusations about Amanda, showing up at their home uninvited, exhibiting emotionally unstable behavior. If the order was granted, I'd be legally barred from contacting them or coming within 500 feet of their home. I wouldn't be able to see my grandchildren, couldn't call my son, couldn't even drive past their house. I sat at my kitchen table and finally let myself break down. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. I cried for Rick's betrayal, for Daniel's rejection, for my grandchildren, who I might never see again, for the life I'd thought I had, that turned out to be nothing but smoke and mirrors. I cried until I had no tears left. And then, in the silence that followed, something changed inside me. I was done being reactive, done letting Amanda control the narrative, done being the victim. If she wanted a fight, I'd give her one. But I'd do it smart this time. Strategic. With help. I opened my laptop and started searching for the best family law attorney in the state. Gloria Harper had an office in a converted Victorian house downtown. Her reviews online were intimidating. Tough. Relentless. Wins cases other lawyers won't touch. Exactly what I needed. Her secretary fit me in 2 days later. I arrived with 3 file folders full of evidence. Bank statements, photos, credit card bills, screenshots. The whole ugly story printed out and organized. Gloria was in her early 50s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through you. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. This is complicated, but we have options. The restraining order hearing is in 4 days. I know. We'll fight it. You're not harassing anyone. You discovered evidence of an affair and brought it to your son's attention. That's not harassment. She flipped through the documents I'd brought. This recording Amanda made, that's a problem. But it's not insurmountable. We'll argue entrapment, manipulation. The fact that she baited you into a conversation and recorded it without your knowledge won't look good for her. What about the affair? Can we prove Rick and Amanda were together? The messages help. The storage unit contents help. But it's all circumstantial. Amanda can claim those things mean something different than what they appear to mean. Gloria tapped her pen against her notepad. What I'm more interested in is this pattern you mentioned. Amanda being involved with another man before Rick. A man who also died suspiciously. I don't know if that's true. It's just something I wondered about. Let me look into it. Give me everything you know about Amanda's past. Where she lived before she came here. Where she worked. Previous relationships. Anything. I pulled out another sheet, where I'd written down everything I could remember Amanda mentioning over the years. The city she came from, her college, her previous job. Gloria handed it to her assistant with instructions to hire a private investigator. If there's a pattern, we'll find it. Over the next 3 days, Gloria's team worked fast. They found character witnesses for me. Neighbors who'd known me for decades. Friends from book club. My doctor, who could testify that I was mentally sound. We prepared for the hearing, going over likely questions and how to answer them. And then, the day before the hearing, the investigator called with news. There had been another man. His name was Douglas Morris. He'd lived in Amanda's previous city, been married with 2 grown children. He'd died in a car accident 9 years ago, almost the exact same circumstances as Rick. Single car crash, went off the road, no witnesses except Amanda, who'd been driving behind him. Douglas's widow was a woman named Patricia. She was in her 70s now, living in a retirement community. The investigator had spoken to her, and Patricia wanted to talk to me. Gloria arranged a video call for that evening. I sat in her office, staring at the screen, as an elderly woman with white hair and sad eyes appeared. "Thank you for agreeing to talk to me," I said. Patricia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. When I heard Amanda's name, I knew I had to. I've been waiting for this for years. She told me her story. It was like listening to my own life. Douglas had met Amanda at a work conference. She was in her early 20s, bright and beautiful. The affair started quickly. Douglas had talked about leaving Patricia, though he never did. He'd given Amanda money, set up accounts for her. And then, one night, his car went off the road. Amanda had been the only witness. "I knew something was wrong," Patricia said. "Douglas was a good driver. That road, he'd driven it 1,000 times. But the police said it was just an accident. Fell asleep. There was no evidence of anything else." "Did you investigate?" "As much as I could. I found evidence of the affair. Found the money Douglas had given her. But by the time I pieced it together, Amanda had disappeared, moved away, started over somewhere new." Patricia's voice cracked. "I always believed she was involved in his death, but I could never prove it. I think she killed my husband too," I whispered. "Then we need to stop her, before she does it to someone else." Gloria had been taking notes throughout the conversation. After we hung up, she looked at me seriously. "This changes things. We're not just fighting a restraining order anymore. If there's really a pattern here, if Rick's death wasn't an accident, we need to involve the police. Will they listen? They will when I show them what we have." The next day, the restraining order hearing felt almost surreal. We sat in a small courtroom, Daniel and Amanda on one side with their attorney, Gloria, and me on the other. Daniel wouldn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Amanda sat beside him, looking demure and concerned in a tasteful navy dress. Their attorney went first, painting me as an unstable, grieving widow who'd become obsessed with destroying Amanda. He played the recording from the coffee shop, making it sound like I'd demanded money. He presented a timeline of my visits to their house, my phone calls, making it look like harassment. Then Gloria stood up. "Your Honor, this is not a case of harassment. This is a case of a woman discovering that her late husband had an affair with her daughter-in-law, and rightfully bringing that information to her son's attention." She presented our evidence, the messages, the photos from the storage unit, the bank statements. She called my doctor, who testified I was mentally competent. She called neighbors, who testified I'd been a stable, reliable presence in the community for 40 years. And then she called Patricia via video link. Amanda's face went white when Patricia appeared on the screen. Daniel turned to look at her, confused. Their attorney stood up to object, but the judge waved him down. "I'll allow it. I want to hear what this witness has to say." Patricia told her story. The affair with Douglas, the suspicious death, the missing money, the pattern of behavior. She showed photos of Douglas and Amanda together from 9 years ago. Daniel's face transformed from confusion to shock to horror. He turned to stare at Amanda, seeing her clearly for the first time. "Did you know about this?" he asked her, his voice barely above a whisper. Amanda was shaking her head, whispering urgently to their attorney. Her composure had finally cracked. She looked scared. The judge listened to everything, took notes, asked questions. Finally, he spoke. "I'm denying the request for a protective order. I see no evidence that Miss Peterson has been harassing this family. I see evidence that she discovered troubling information and brought it to her son's attention, which is her right." He looked at Amanda. "Furthermore, I'm concerned about what I've heard here today. I'm recommending that the district attorney's office review this testimony." The hearing ended. Outside the courtroom, Daniel finally looked at me. He was crying. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you." I wanted to hug him, but Amanda was pulling on his arm, trying to get him to leave. "We need to go," she was saying. "We need to talk to our lawyer." Daniel shook her off. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, he shook her off. "How long have you been lying to me?" he asked her. "I haven't. That woman is lying. I don't even know who she is. She had photos of you and this Douglas from before you even met Dad." Amanda's eyes darted around, looking for an escape. "Daniel, please, not here. Let's go home and talk." "I don't know if I want to go home with you." That's when Amanda's mask finally shattered completely. Her face twisted with anger. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I knew Douglas. Yes, we were involved. So what? That doesn't prove anything about Rick. You never told me about him." "Why would I? It was in the past. Just like Rick is in the past. You're letting your mother poison you against me." She stepped closer to him, her voice turning threatening. "I still have our children, Daniel. If you make me leave, if you divorce me, I'll fight you for custody. I'll take them away from you. You'll be lucky to see them on weekends." I watched my son's face, watched him realize that the woman he'd married, the mother of his children, was threatening him with the thing he loved most. "I need to think," he said quietly. "I need space." "Daniel, don't do this. Go stay with your mother for a few days. I need time with the kids, time to figure out what's real." Amanda looked between us, realizing she was losing. "If you push me out, if you try to take my children, you'll regret it. I'll make sure of it." She walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the courthouse floor. Daniel stood there, looking lost. "What have I done? How did I not see?" "You loved her. Love makes us blind sometimes. She threatened the kids, Mom. She threatened to take them from me." His voice broke. "What kind of person threatens their own children?" That night, Gloria called me with news. The police had agreed to reopen Rick's case. They were assigning a detective to investigate. The fight wasn't over. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like we might actually win. Detective Marcus Stone called me 3 days later. He was in his early 40s, with a methodical way of speaking that made me trust him immediately. We met at the police station, where he went through everything with me. Every piece of evidence, every detail I could remember about Rick's death. The original investigation was cursory, he admitted. Single car accident. No witnesses except the person who called it in. No evidence of foul play. They closed it as accidental death. But now you're looking again? The similarities to the Douglas Morris case are concerning. Same type of accident. Same circumstances. Same woman present at both scenes. He made notes on his pad. I've requested Rick's car be pulled from the impound lot. It was scheduled to be destroyed, but we got to it in time. What will you look for? Evidence of tampering. Mechanical failure that wasn't natural. Anything that might indicate the accident wasn't an accident. Over the next week, the investigation unfolded. Detective Stone was thorough. He interviewed people who'd known Rick in his last days. He examined phone records. He tracked down witnesses. Rick's former secretary, a woman named Margaret who'd retired 3 years ago, came forward with information. She remembered the week before Rick died, said Rick had seemed agitated, scared even. He'd told her he'd made terrible mistakes and needed to make things right. Did he say what mistakes? Detective Stone asked her. No. But I saw Amanda visit his office that week. They argued in the parking lot. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard her say something like, "You'll be sorry if you do this." The burner phone I'd found yielded more evidence. Police tech experts recovered deleted messages, Rick writing that he was going to tell everyone the truth. Amanda responding with what now clearly looked like threats. And then the car. The mechanic who examined it found what we'd been looking for. The brake line had been cut, then partially resealed with epoxy. Designed to fail while driving, but not immediately. Designed to look like natural wear and tear if anyone looked quickly. But under close examination, the tampering was obvious. This was murder, Detective Stone told me. No question. They brought Amanda in for questioning. She came with 3 lawyers and refused to say anything. But the investigation continued without her cooperation. Phone records from the day before Rick died showed Amanda had called him 7 times. The last call lasted 20 minutes. Records showed Amanda's car had been near Rick's workplace that afternoon, near the parking garage where he kept his car. Daniel came to see me during this time. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. The kids were staying with him. Amanda had moved into an apartment, and her visits with the children were supervised now, at Daniel's insistence. They want to know when Mommy's coming home, Daniel said, his voice hollow. How do I explain this to them? That their mother might have killed their grandfather? You tell them the truth in a way they can understand. That Mommy made some very bad choices. That you're keeping them safe. I keep thinking about all the time she was alone with them. What if she'd decided they were in her way? What if I'd made her angry enough? He put his head in his hands. I brought her into our family. I gave her access to my father. I had children with her. You were deceived. That's not your fault, isn't it? You saw through her. Mom, you figured it out. Only because I found her phone. If I hadn't seen those messages, I might never have known. We grieved together. For Rick, for the betrayal, for the life we'd thought we had. It was painful, but it was also healing. Daniel and I were rebuilding something real. Something based on truth instead of lies. Then, 3 weeks into the investigation, Amanda did something desperate. She took the children. Daniel called me, his voice panicked. She picked them up from school. She was supposed to have a supervised visit at the center, but she went to the school instead. The school didn't know she wasn't supposed to be there alone. They let her take them. The police issued an Amber Alert. Amanda's face appeared on news stations across the state. Her car was flagged in every database, but she had a several-hour head start. Detective Stone tracked her phone heading north, toward the Canadian border. She had passports for the kids. She was going to run. Daniel wanted to follow, but the police told him to stay put. They had units converging on the border crossings. They'd catch her. The hours that followed were the longest of my life. Daniel sat in my living room, staring at his phone, waiting for updates. I made coffee neither of us drank. We barely spoke, just waited. Finally, just after midnight, Detective Stone called. "We have them. Border Patrol stopped her at the crossing. The children are safe." Daniel collapsed with relief, sobbing. I held him like he was 5 years old again, both of us crying. They brought the children back that night. They were confused and scared, but physically fine. Amanda had told them they were going on an adventure, that Daddy would meet them later. They hadn't realized anything was wrong. Amanda was arrested at the border, charged with kidnapping, custodial interference, and flight to avoid prosecution. And the murder charges were coming. The evidence was overwhelming now. In custody, Amanda's lawyers tried to negotiate. She'd confess to the affair if they'd drop the murder charges. But there was too much evidence. The tampered brakes, the threatening messages, the pattern with Douglas Morris. The police in Douglas's state were reopening that case too, ready to charge her with that murder as well. She'd run out of moves. Finally, she'd run out of places to hide. The trial was set for 6 months away, but everyone knew how it would end. The evidence was too strong. Too many pieces fitting together, too many lies unraveling. Daniel filed for divorce, filed for full custody. Amanda didn't fight either. From her jail cell, she seemed to have finally given up. "Did she ever love me?" Daniel asked one night. "Even a little?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe in her own way. But whatever she felt, it wasn't enough to stop her from using you, from hurting you. I look at the kids and wonder what I'm supposed to tell them when they're older. How do I explain that their mother is in prison for murdering their grandfather? You tell them the truth. That their mother was sick in a way that made her hurt people. That you kept them safe. That they have people who love them honestly." It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was all I had. 6 months later, Amanda was convicted of first-degree murder in Rick's death. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. The evidence was overwhelming. Forensics on the car, phone records. The pattern with Douglas Morris, witness testimony from Margaret. The threatening messages recovered from the burner phone. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The police in Douglas's state reopened his case with new evidence, and 3 months later, Amanda was charged with that murder as well. Patricia, who'd waited 9 years for justice, was finally going to get it. Patricia flew out for Amanda's sentencing in Rick's case. Afterward, we met for coffee, 2 widows bound together by grief and determination. "Thank you," she said, holding my hands across the table. "For not letting her get away with it again, for believing me. Thank you for coming forward, for having the courage to tell your story." We talked for hours that day. About Douglas and Rick. About the good parts of our marriages and the painful parts. About the warning signs we'd missed or ignored. About how Amanda had played on their weaknesses, their vanities, their desires for something new and exciting. "Douglas was a good man who made terrible choices," Patricia said. "I've had to learn to hold both those truths at the same time." "Yes," I said. "That's exactly it." We stayed in touch after that. Called each other every few weeks. Became real friends, not just women connected by tragedy. She came to visit several times, stayed in my guest room, met Daniel and the kids. She was like an aunt to them, a reminder that even terrible things can create unexpected connections. Daniel went to therapy to work through everything, the betrayal, the guilt, the trauma of realizing his wife was a murderer. The kids went too, learning how to process their mother's absence in age-appropriate ways. Slowly, we rebuilt. Family dinners at my house became a regular thing. Sunday afternoons in my garden with the kids. School pickups and bedtime stories. And normal, boring, beautiful, everyday life. The money from the secret account was eventually recovered through the courts and returned to Rick's estate. Daniel and I split it. I used my portion to set up college funds for the grandchildren. Daniel used his to pay for therapy and to make a down payment on a new house, one without memories of Amanda in every room. One afternoon, about a year after the trial, I was working in my garden when my grandson came running over. "Grandma, can I help plant the flowers?" "Of course, sweetheart." We knelt in the dirt together, his small hands carefully placing bulbs in the holes I'd dug. He was 7 now, getting bigger every day. His sister was inside helping Daniel make lunch. "Grandma?" he asked after a while. "Dad said Mommy made really bad choices." "What does that mean?" I sat back on my heels, choosing my words carefully. "It means that sometimes grown-ups do things that hurt other people. Your mommy did some things that were very wrong. She hurt people in ways that can't be fixed." "Did she hurt you?" "Yes. And your grandpa Rick, and your daddy. But your daddy made sure you and your sister stayed safe. That's what matters." "I miss her sometimes," he said quietly. "That's okay. It's okay to miss someone even when they did bad things. Love is complicated like that." He nodded, not fully understanding but accepting. Then he went back to planting, humming a song from school. Daniel called us in for lunch. We washed our hands and sat around the kitchen table, the 4 of us. Simple sandwiches and fruit. Nothing fancy, but it felt like everything. "Mom," Daniel said during lunch, "I never properly apologized for not believing you at first, for pushing you away when you were trying to help. You were protecting your family. I understand. You were right. About everything. And I'm sorry I couldn't see it. We both got manipulated by her. She was good at it, but you figured it out. You pushed through even when I fought you. You saved us." His voice cracked. "You saved my kids, Mom. If you'd given up, if you'd let it go like I wanted you to, who knows what would have happened." I reached across the table and took his hand. We saved each other. After lunch, after the kids went to play in the living room, Daniel and I sat on the back porch with coffee. The afternoon sun was warm, birds singing in the trees. Peaceful. Really, truly peaceful. "Do you ever think about Dad?" Daniel asked. "About the good parts, I mean, before all this?" Every day. Rick was flawed. He made terrible choices. He betrayed both of us. But he was also funny and smart, and a good father for most of your childhood. I'm trying to hold both truths, the good and the bad. That's hard. It is. But I think it's important. For the kids especially. They should know that Grandpa Rick loved them, even if he made mistakes. That people are complicated. That one bad choice doesn't erase all the good ones, but it also doesn't excuse them. When did you get so wise? When I had to learn to survive losing everything and rebuilding from scratch, I smiled at him. You're doing the same thing, learning to hold the complicated truths, teaching your kids to do it too. I couldn't do it without you. You could, but I'm glad you don't have to. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the kids play through the window. My granddaughter was teaching her brother a dance from school. They were laughing, stumbling over the steps, completely absorbed in the moment. "They're going to be okay," I said. "Yeah," Daniel said. "They are." I thought about everything we'd been through. The discovery, the betrayal, the investigation, the trial, the rebuilding. It had been the hardest 2 years of my life. Harder even than losing Rick initially, because this time I'd had to lose the memory of him too. Had to grieve not just the man, but the marriage I'd thought we had. But sitting there on my porch with my son, watching my grandchildren play, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not just the absence of conflict, but real, deep peace. The kind that comes from surviving something terrible and finding your way to the other side. I'd learned that truth matters, even when it's painful. That standing up for what's right is worth the cost. That family can survive anything if there's honesty and love. That justice takes time but is worth fighting for. That you're stronger than you think you are, even when everything feels impossible. And I'd learned that healing is possible. Even after betrayal. Even after loss. Even when you think you'll never feel whole again. The past couldn't be changed. Rick had betrayed me. Amanda had used us all. Daniel had doubted me. I'd lost years of my life to lies and deception. But the future was ours to build. And we were building something real. Something based on truth and trust and love that had been tested and proven strong. That evening, As Daniel loaded the kids into his car to head home, my granddaughter ran back to hug me one more time. "I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. Will you come to my dance recital next week? I wouldn't miss it for the world." She climbed into the car, waving through the window as they drove away. I stood on my porch until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Then I went inside, made myself a cup of tea, and sat in my living room. The same living room where I'd found Amanda's phone 2 years ago, where everything had started to unravel. But it didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt like home. I thought about Rick sometimes, about the man I'd loved and the man I'd discovered he really was. I'd forgiven him, in a way. Not because what he did was okay, but because holding on to anger was just another way of letting him control my life. He was gone. Amanda was in prison. The truth was out. What mattered now was moving forward, being there for Daniel and the kids, building new memories, creating a future that honored the good parts of the past while learning from the mistakes. I picked up my phone and sent Patricia a text. "Thank you for being brave enough to tell your story. Thank you for helping us find justice." She wrote back immediately. "Thank you for not giving up, for proving that sometimes the truth wins." Sometimes the truth wins. I thought about that as I sipped my tea, looking around my quiet house. It had cost me dearly, had taken everything I had. But yes, the truth had won, and that made all the difference. Before I finish, I want to ask you something. Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything you thought you knew? A moment when the person you trusted most turned out to be someone completely different? How did you find the strength to keep going? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more true stories like this one, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles is the most powerful thing. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here with me through every painful moment and every hard-won victory. May you find the strength to face your own truths, whatever they may be. May you have the courage to fight for justice, even when it's hard. And may you find peace on the other side of your battles. Take care of yourselves, hold your loved ones close, and remember that you're stronger than you know.